Hello everyone, this is Controlled Chaos speaking, once again with Is It Genesys Ready? Here with a structure deck that is near and dear to my heart. Machina Mayhem. Now when I first got this deck, I didn't exactly really use it that much. It was actually during the Xyz era that I got to, that I started using this deck in earnest. But that just proves to me, like what my typing up to now has been. So, but that's neither here or there. This one was still released in the 5Ds era, and it introduced an archetype that has had an interesting history, and I'm not sure where it is now, but I'm sure that it will be quite a contender if I ever decide to get the skeleton I still have and flesh it back again. I'm sure it's gotten a few additions since then. So, you know what we do. We go through the deck, review the cards individually, do quarterly reviews, and then a final review, as well as take a look at the point values in order to determine whether the structured decks that have been released are Genesys ready. So let's get started. Of course, starting with the ace monster of the deck, being Machina Fortress. Or is it Machina? I call it Machina. It could be Machina, but here's the deal. So this guy has, let's see, so yeah, this guy, you can special summon it from the graveyard, or you can special summon this as is, but this one has an additional special summon that is a little confusing at first, but once you figure it out, it's crazy. So, you can discard machine monsters with a total level of 8 or more. Then special summon this card either from the hand or the graveyard. If this card is destroyed by Bell and sent to the graveyard, you may target a card your opponent controls, destroy that target. Before resolving an opponent's monster effect that targets this face-up card, look at your opponent's monster's hand and discard a card from that hand. Let's see. Hold on a second. I think this is a reprint that I'm looking at. Let me have a look. Gallery. Let's see. Structure deck. Machina Mayhem structure deck. Yeah, it has been having reprints. So let's have a look at the original. See if there's a difference. It's essentially the same. For resolving an opponent's monster effect that targets his face-up card. Target a card. Okay, so it does target. It used to not, but now it does. But enough about that. So, you can see why I've kind of fell in love with this guy. It has the base 2500 attack for the trickster monsters. So that's good for it being a boss monster. And it has quite the slew of effects. So any protagonist would be happy to have this guy, especially if they're running a machine type deck. And here's an interesting trick. I don't know if this is still applicable. You might want to test it on Master Duel for yourself. But I found that you can activate Machina Fortress's effect from the hand and then discard himself and another machine type monster to special summon him. Because it can be special summoned from the hand or graveyard. Because of that clause, you can just discard himself and another machine to special summon him. It's a little counterintuitive to think about, and as I said, test it out on Master Duel for yourself. But that makes it to where it's a -2 for a summon. But this deck, I recall, has a lot of ways of getting stuff back from the graveyard, and nowadays, the graveyard is more of a second hand. But yes, Machina Fortress is near and dear to my heart, as is the majority of them. And we'll get into the history of the Machinas in a second. But for now, I think it would be a good idea to look at the generic monsters that are in this deck first. Now here's a good machine support that's in the deck. We have Scrap Recycler, especially effective for this deck as it's mostly Earth-type monsters. When this card is normal or special summoned, you can send a machine-type monster from the deck to the graveyard. Once per turn, you can shuffle 2 level 4 Earth machine-type monsters from the grave into the deck to draw a card. Now, it does take up your normal summon, but while it's on the field, it also gives you a recycle effect and a draw. So, however, this guy might be a little slow for the competitive scene. It really depends on the strategy you utilize. Scrap Recycler might be good for the deck, might be bad for the deck. Play around with it, see if it works. If it doesn't, you can always trade it out. But, yeah, it's an okay card. Now, this is an instant where classic OCG cards release in structure decks. I believe this is the case with Cypher Soldier. Or, no. Just classic cards being re-released in structure decks just because. Cypher Soldier. Odd attack. Decent defense for level 3. If this card battles a warrior-type monster... Excuse me. If this card battles a warrior-type monster during damage calculation, this card gains 2,000 attack and defense during that damage calculation only. So this is one of those cards where it has an effect that outright destroys a specific type of monster when it battles it. And these just make them beat sticks. That's all it does. So, it's not even good side deck material. So, Cypher Soldier, if you see something else, you might want to replace this for it. This is one of the few cards I don't exactly agree with. Now, this card's gotten some fame to it. Blast Spear. If this face-down defense position card was attacked by an opponent's monster, equip this... Before your calculation, equip this card to the attacking monster. Then during your opponent's next standby phase, that monster is destroyed. And if it is, then your opponent takes damage equal to the attack of the destroyed monster on the field. Pretty... Let's see. It's another slow card to use. And, like, I've mentioned this with flip effect monsters, but an opponent could just target it and destroy it. And this isn't even a flip effect monster, really, so it doesn't have that utility to it either. All it really does is stop one attack, and then they could just tribute or summon that monster away. I mean, in Genesys, it could see some play, especially if it attaches itself to a boss monster. But otherwise, it's just, it might be too slow for the scene. This deck features quite a few Union monsters, and it has a few strategies to it, as I recall. So it has 2 copies of Heavy Mech Support Platform, which is, I believe, one of the first Union monsters to be released. Once per turn, you can either target a machine monster you control. So let's explain Union monsters real quick. Union monsters. Once per turn, you can either target a specific monster you control, equip this monster to it as an equipped spell card. Or unequip this card and special summon it as a monster. So yeah, these are monsters that can transform into equipment or into monsters once per turn. And furthermore, most of the Union monsters have the effect where if they're equipped to a monster, should that monster be destroyed, the equipped Union monster is destroyed instead. And this is an interesting concept, but one that doesn't really see a lot of play outside of their utility. Where, like, there's a specific a field spell that lets you special summon them from the deck. So the fact that the only utility they got is the fact that they are Union monsters and not the function. But who knows? There might come a time where knowing this might help. Like, it might save a game. An interesting addition, we have Cyber Dragon and Proto Cyber Dragon. I might as well discuss these two right now. So, Cyber Dragon is an Infinite card from the GX era, as being one of the first monsters who has an effect that lets you special summon it from the hand. And up until recently, it requires your opponent to control a monster to special summon it. And, like, this is specifically it. This is the progenitor of special summoning a powerful level 5 or higher monster from the hand. And everybody wanted this card. And I think that kind of holds true to a fault for today. Because, Chimeratech Fortress Dragon still exists, and there's also that Cyber Dragon Xyz monster that also would make use of it. Like, by virtue, the Cyber Dragon archetype is still going strong, I think. And then there is Proto Cyber Dragon, which has... It doesn't have the special summon effect, but it has an equally strong effect. This card's name becomes Cyber Dragon while it's on the field. Well, it's a Cyber Dragon that you normal summon, and then you can use it for Chimeratech Fortress Dragon fusion summon, because Chimeratech Fortress Dragon does not require polymerization. It just requires that there be at least 2 machines on the field to send to the graveyard from either side. So, yeah. And because Proto Cyber Dragon only becomes Cyber Dragon while it's on the field, that means you can run 3 copies of each Cyber Dragon and Proto Cyber Dragon. So it doesn't suffer the same problem as the Harpy Ladies. Following up on both the Cyber Dragon archetype and the Union Monster archetype, we've got in the deck Armored Cyber. Let me double check this. This is the TCG release. So I don't remember this being in the deck. But yes, this is a Union monster that is specifically meant for Cyber Dragons. Which reminds me, I didn't mention what Heavy Mech Support platform does while equipped, so I'll discuss it here. But all it is an attack boost, I believe. Aside from its Union effects, all it does is give 500 attack and defense to the equipped monster, which isn't anything to sneeze at, but it's just the equipped card standard. Now, Armored Cybern. Let's see. Okay, so you can equip this to either a Cyber Dragon or a fusion monster that lists Cyber Dragon as fusion material. And it also has the Union Protection effect. Let's see. Once per turn, while equipped to a monster by this effect, you can target a face-up monster on the field. The equipped monster loses exactly 1,000 attack, even if this card leaves the field, and if it does, destroy that target. Okay. So, this Union Monster equip effect has a bit more utility to it, but there are cards that you can just outright just play to point and shoot. So, like this one, it requires too many steps for it to be useful outside of its Union effect. Or outside of just being a Union monster to grab with Union Hanger. So, it's iffy, again. So, yes, here at the first quarter review, I will admit the base release for Machina Mayhem is a bit of a mess, but its real strength comes in when you actually combine this with two or more copies, as is generally the case with all structure decks. So, like, a lot of these monsters you'll be replacing with other machine-type monsters to make a more cohesive strategy. But as is, it's a bit of a mess outside of everybody's a machine type. And machines specifically can be forgiven for it because they tend to have very powerful support. Limiter removal being one example. But let's continue on and see if there's anything that will improve it. So, we also have the Gadget Brothers, green, red, and yellow. So these guys are, I recall, being particularly powerful in a build that I've had before. Because, like, when you normal summon each one of these guys, it allows you to add to the hand the next monster in line from the deck to your hand. Yellow grabs green, green grabs red, red grabs yellow. And they all have different stat values for each color. Yellow, I believe, is supposed to be average. Green is supposed to be more attack oriented, and red is supposed to be more defense oriented. But red kind of overshadows yellow as supposed to be medium, but yellow is really just the weakest out of them, but they're all weak. Their main focus is that you summon them, yet maintain hand advantage. And that is an important aspect when you've got an ace monster like Machina Fortress. Because this way, you can just summon out a gadget, then you'll have your material required to special summon Machina Fortress on top of that. And there you are with two monsters on the field. This one is a cyber, but I don't think he's that right now for the Cyber Dragon archetype. He used to be all that back in the day when the game was much slower. So, you can activate one of these effects. When this card is targeted for an attack, you can banish this card, draw a card, then end the battle phase. This one is the effect that got used the most. And, but nowadays, if someone were to summon Cyber Valley, all someone would have to do is play Lightning Vortex or something like that. Let's see. Its other two effects aren't better, I don't think. You can target a face-up monster you control and discard, banish both of them to draw two cards. Excuse me. So, banishing two monsters to draw two cards, unless you have an easy way of getting them back. That one's not really that great. Then, let's see. You can target a card in the graveyard, banish both this card and a card from your hand, then place that target on top of the deck. Again, too slow for too much requirement. So yeah, Cyber Valley has kind of gone into obscurity. I remember it being a much more powerful card, but this one has become a victim of power creep, I believe. Now, this deck seems to feature what's supposed to be 3 ace monsters. Yeah. What's supposed to be 3 ace monsters. The first being Machina Fortress, and then we also have the big Saturn. This guy is supposedly an ace monster, it would seem, as well. But more often than not, it would just be used as fodder for Machina Fortress. It is a level 8, so this would be a one and done. And then we'll go into the third possible boss monster. But let's look at this guy first. So, right off the bat, we see an issue. It cannot be special summoned from the hand or deck. So your only way of getting him out is you have to actually draw into him. Or search him out. You can search him out, you just can't special summon him from the hand or the deck. Can be special summoned from the graveyard, sure. But it just makes things difficult. Once per turn, you can discard a card and pay 1,000 life points. This card gains 1,000 attack until the end phase. So discard a card, pay 1,000 life points to make this 3,800. Sort of, I don't know. Kind of okay. When this card in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card effect and sent to the graveyard, both players take damage equal to this card's attack in the graveyard. That part is okay, I suppose. But with 2,800 attack, someone with enough, let's see, 2,800 attack, the big Saturn is just awkward. It's okay. It's got an okay stat, okay effects. It's just awkward, and I'd say it's just middle of the road as far as boss monsters go. Now then, let's look into the rest of the Machina archetype, and it's here that I will mention what I believe is the history of the Machina archetype. So, far as I can tell, Machina was released as an OCG only archetype. There are TCG only archetypes and there are OCG only archetypes. This being one of the OCG only archetypes that have finally at this point reached this side of the world. And it originally started with the first few that I am going to discuss here. So, the first being Commander Covington, the oddball of the group. Let's see. And let me have a check here. Yeah. So, you can send a face-up Machina Soldier, Machina Sniper, and Machina Defender you control to the graveyard to special summon Machina Force from the hand or deck. This one, so yes, this guy is, what we're looking at is a sort of Royal Flush archetype looking thing. But apparently, you have to control all 4 face-up monsters on the field in order to special summon Machina Force. So,
you can see the issue here. Like, just getting these all into your hand, we're looking at we're looking at Exodia with extra steps. In fact, let's pull up all of them and look at them all at the same time. So yes, Commander Covington requires Soldier, Sniper, and Defender in order to summon Machina Force. Let's see. Well, let's look at the pieces first. So we've got Machina Soldier. Possibly the best out of the three, as I recall. When normal summoned, while you control no other monsters, you can special summon a Machina from the hand except for Machina Soldier. Yeah, this one is the best one because you can special summon any of the other Machinas outside Machina Force. I'll get to that in a second. But with Machina Soldier, you can even special summon Machina Force. No, Machina Fortress. That's it. So yes, Soldier is definitely great in its own right. So we won't really fault this guy. Let's see, Sniper. Machina monsters cannot be attacked except for Sniper. So yeah, an attack redirect. Not as powerful as these used to be, but it's got decent stats. It's a decent attack stat for level 4. And with machine type monsters, boosting attack isn't that bad. So Machina Sniper is sort of a middling monster. Now let's see. What's Defender? Flip effect. Add Commander Covington from your deck to your hand. So it does provide a way to get Commander Covington, but as we'll go into, it's not really that great. So this one's probably the marginally worst out of the bunch. Machina Soldier can help you get these guys out to the field faster. And Machina Defender you would want probably first turn if you want to use this. So, let's have a look at what Commander Covington would summon. Machina Force. A level 10 monster. It cannot be normal summoned or set and must be special summoned by Commander Covington and cannot be special summoned by any other way. So yes, unfortunately, Machina Soldier does not allow you to summon Machina Force, which is a shame because its stats really rival the Egyptian gods, but it's much more awkward to use. You have to use Commander Covington to summon him. What do you get by assembling all 4 pieces of Exodia? Let's see. You must pay 1,000 life points to declare an attack with this card. You can send this face-up card you control to the grave to target to target 1 Machina Soldier, Machina Sniper, and Machina Defender in the graveyard to special summon those targets. So it has a limiter and it has a defusion effect. So your reward for assembling the 4 pieces together is summoning a very powerful beat stick, but one that requires you to pay life points to even attack with, doesn't have anything else to it, and while it does have an effect that disassembles it, this disassembly effect is terrible because you only get soldiers. Hold up. Okay, so looking about it, it's bad only for one reason because Commander Covington apparently is only a catalyst and not an addition to it. But the only thing is, it's not a quick effect. The dis is like stuff like
Defusion, like, the only reason you would want a diffusion is to get more attacks in on your opponent. This doesn't allow you to do that because this is a main phase effect. So yes, Machina Force is a mess. The whole thing is a mess. That was the original history of the Machina Force, they would say. Like, the only good thing that came out of it, though, would be Machina Soldier. Like, you would definitely want to have this in the deck by virtue of you being able to have another avenue of summoning Machina Fortress that way. So that's the good thing that came out of it. And with that history lesson, we come to the halfway point. So, yes. What we see here is the fact that there are some there's some wasted potential here, but it's not all bad, as everything can be in service to the ace monster. And, that makes it not bad, but you also need to understand that there is a lot of fat that needs to be cut out. So, like, this deck could easily become a newbie trap. Alright, so moving on. Let's go into the Machinas that were released in this deck. Let's see. Starting with Gearframe. This is another one that I believe had become a staple for the deck. And as I recall, all the additions in this deck are Union monsters. When this card is normal summoned, you can add a Machina monster from the deck to the hand that isn't Gearframe. Once per turn, let's see, and then it's got Union effects. Alright, so yeah. Machina Gearframe has the effect where you summon this guy and you can grab, let's say, Machina Fortress from the deck. That's amazing. So what you would do is summon Gearframe, grab Fortress, possibly summon Fortress, then equip Gearframe with Fortress, so it's now have destruction protection, which is crazy amazing, I would think. So yeah, definitely a what's the word I'm looking for? A staple for the deck. Then we've got Machina Peacekeeper. Let's see here. It has its union effects. Let's see, its unique effect is when this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can add a union monster from your deck to the hand. So, a sort of recruitment floating effect. Sort of a win more card, I think. So, like, I recall wanting to just replace Peacekeeper with Gearframe. Let's see here. Was there one more? No. Okay. So, yeah. These two being the newest additions at the time. This was where, let's see, Gearframe, Peacekeeper, and Force. This was where the Machina was starting to have a tone shift towards a new boss monster and a better strategy all around. It was still awkward, but still doable. And that's every monster in the deck. So this is amazing. I think we're now starting to finally reach the stage where it's more monsters than spells and traps. So, now we shall go into the spells. Let's start with the ones that we've already been over. here. And I think half of them are continuous spells. But let's start with Hand Destruction. Discard. Both players discard their entire hands, then draw that many cards. I believe that's got some points to it. We might have our first point value today. Nope. Hand Destruction is at 0 points. Incredible. Let's see. I believe I mentioned Machine Duplicate. Yeah, I did. Yeah. Machine Duplications. Level 2 monster. Special summon 2 more copies of that monster. Though this deck, it probably only has that with the 2 union monsters that you have 2 copies of, but that seems like wasted potential here. Swords of Revealing Light. Play this for 3 turns. Your opponent cannot attack. Now, here, I believe, is the card that at first everyone, or at least I did, wanted to buy this deck for. Like, I believe this was the time where structured decks were only bought because a specific card was released in it. This card being Solidarity. If you only have one original type of monster in the graveyard, all monsters you control with the same type gain 800 attack. 800 attack what became a magic number for attack boosts. And so this became quite an impressive tool for decks that only focused on one type of monster. But I believe this became phased out through power creep. So now power boosts now gave way to floodgates. Card Trader. I believe this also started new. I keep forgetting words. Streak for adding a continuous card that's supposed to give you draw power, but more often than not, you would want to replace it for something better. So Card Trader, once per turn, during the standby phase, you can shuffle a card from your hand into the deck to draw a card. Let's see. Now, here's the issue with cards like Card Trader. It's a continuous spell, so it'll stay on the field. That means you do get its effect again and again, but 1, it will clog up your spell and trap card zone, and 2, all the opponent has to do is destroy it after you pay the cost, and then you're down a card. And 3, if you're going to redraw your hand, why not just use Magical Mallet and get more bang for your buck all at once? So yeah. Like, it just makes it into a win more card. Inferno Reckless Summon. I believe this is in the same vein as Machine Duplication. Let's see. When exactly one monster. When exactly one monster with 1500 or less attack is special summoned to your field while your opponent controls a monster. Special summon as many monsters as possible with the same name as the summoned monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard in attack position. Your opponent can then special summon as many monsters as possible with the same name as one of their face-up monsters from their hand, deck, and graveyard. This one is just very niche because, like, you'll be at risk of your opponent having all of their powerful monsters on the field, and there aren't that many targets at least in the base deck for this deck, but also in general, that you would want to have all of them out on the field, at all copies of a specific monster out on the field at the same time. Plus, let's see, exactly one monster. Now, the requirement isn't that bad nowadays, because like a lot of times you'd want to special summon them right off the bat. So now that I think on it, could Inferno Reckless summon? It has potential, though. I can see that it's got potential, but it's awkward to use. Got 4 more cards to look at, so let's go ahead and get these before we go into the final quarter review. Into the home stretch review. Or 3/4 review. Oops, I did new window. It's supposed to be new tab. Here we go. Frontline Base. This is a Union Monster support card that simply says, once per turn, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Union Monster from the hand. This is a Lucky Cloud card. They're okay. But they kind of suffer the whole continuous spell problem, but it's possible. It still doesn't take away the fact that you get a special summon for Union Monsters, so it's good for the deck. Shrink is a famous card. I don't think I've gone over this card before, but simply target a face-up monster in the field. Its original attack becomes halved until the end of this turn. However, nowadays this has fallen to the wayside for Forbidden Droplet, but if all you want to do is make your monster smaller, just put in Shrink. But then again, the battle phase has become less and less powerful, and the only reason that it hasn't been outright outshone is because it's the only main way of dealing damage. Then we have Prohibition. I can see this card. Well, maybe not. It might have 1 or 2 points to it. I don't know. Activate by declaring a card name. Cards with that name and their effects cannot be used. Cards already on the field are not affected. So this is an interesting floodgate, but because it requires you to have knowledge of your opponent's deck. And like a lot of decks don't really have linchpins, but if you know they do, this could become a good side deck card. But this kind of adds to the whole this deck is awkward to use problem. And my first guess was right. It's got 100 points to it. With good reason, though, because it's still a floodgate and it's still preventing one card from being used. And now, which becomes more powerful since the number of cards you can put in is limited since they took away. What is this? Since they took away pendulums and link monsters. And then the final spell card is also the final Machina support card. Machina Armored Unit. Once per turn, when a machine monster is destroyed by Bell and sent to the grave, you can special summon a machine monster from the deck with the same attribute and less attack than that destroyed monster in the graveyard. Let's see, destroyed by battle. Okay. So this essentially makes every machine type monster a floating monster. However, floating monsters have become less powerful, and so Machina Armored Unit has become that much less powerful for it. So it's a shame that the monster has to be destroyed by battle for this effect to go off and not just plain destroyed. That would have been more powerful. Alright. Third quarter review. So, yes, it's looking more and more like the base recipe for the deck is very awkward to use, but all of the options, all of the combos are pretty powerful if they get off, but as I keep saying, it's very awkward. And we've come to our what is possibly the weakest of the 100-point cards, but hopefully the rest of them won't put us over. So let's get into the traps. Let's see, starting with compulsory evacuation device, monster removal, bounce it back to the hand. Let's see, did we go over ceasefire? I don't believe we did, no. Let's see, then we have Metal Morph and Rare Metal Morph. Let me double check this if I went over. I believe the one we went over was Rare Metal Morph. Yeah, it has to be. Yeah, it has to equip itself to a machine type monster. And let's see. And it gets a one-time spell negation if it targets. So, but yeah, we'll go into Metal Morph in a second. Do we go over Dimensional Prison? Yeah, I don't think so. We went over Time Machine. Simply put, if a monster is destroyed by Bell, you special summon it back right there. And yeah, those are the cards that we already went over. Let's start with the Union Support Trap card. 2 copies of Roll Out. Let's see, target a Union monster in the graveyard. Equip that target to a monster you control. That would be an appropriate target for that Union monster's effect. So, this is pretty effective Union support for 2 parts. It lets you get the Union, like it can serve as destruction prevention, because as part of a chain, you'll be equipping the Union monster to a monster on the field that would likely be affected by an effect that destroys stuff. Union monsters prevent destruction by destroying themselves while equipped. So yes, this is a pretty good trap card to have. In the same vein as Call of the Haunted. Next, we have Ceasefire. If a face-down defense position monster or an effect monster is on the field, change all face-down defense position monsters on the field to face-up defense and inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each monster on the field. Let's see. Similar to Just Desserts. Let me see. Okay, so yeah, similar to Just Desserts, but Ceasefire stops flip effects and like it's an okay burn card, but it requires both players to have a lot of monsters on the field, which is possible, but you generally want your opponent to have less monsters than you. So, like, this requires timing. And I also wonder if Ceasefire likely has some points to it. Let's see. Nope. Alright. Dimensional Prison. Now this one has, like, this one has had more use than Sakuretsu Armor because it has more powerful punishment. Like, it does target, but it banishes the target instead of just destroying it, making it more difficult to bring back. But again, there are monsters that can't be targeted, and this requires your opponent to declare it. Well, yeah. This one does target, so cards like Dragoon are unaffected by Dimensional Prison. But it's still pretty powerful, but it does get outclassed by a bunch of other cards these days. And then we have the OG Metalmorph. We've looked at Rare Metalmorph twice now, but we finally see the OG Metalmorph here. Target one face-up monster in the field. Equip this card to that target. It gains 300 attack and defense. If it attacks, it gains the attack equal to half the attack of the attack target during damage calculation only. Sort of an honest before honest became a... Metalmorph was an honest before honest became a thing. I'm surprised I hadn't seen it more often than that because of that fact, but again, it's an equip spell and a trap card on top of that. Plus, the monster has to be attacking, not battling, which is a distinction. So yeah, all of this is really awkward to have on a trap card, because the best time to, like, this is all stuff that you would want to do on your turn, but trap cards are generally better used on your opponent's turn, because once you set a trap card, you can't activate it until the end of your turn. So yeah. So, is it Genesys ready? Point values are at 100 exactly. But as the base recipe goes, it is absolutely awkward to use. But the plus side being, the point value cards, you only got one point value card and a whole bunch of spaces. So you could take out Prohibition and replace a whole bunch of the monsters and spells here for better options. You've got more points to work with now. And the cards that are in here, though, it's not like you would likely have a lot of dead cards, but they're not really dead cards because you can get Machina Fortress out, which was a thing I recall enjoying about the deck. But yes, this deck was, it seems, awkwardly built, and it's awkward to use. But I'd say it's almost Genesys ready. But you would likely want to bolster it up by getting 2 more copies of the deck. So yes, thank you for watching. If you like what you've seen, be sure to hit the subscribe button and make sure the bell's ringing. Also be sure to check out my Sure page. I'll be putting polls and events there. And I also stream on Twitch every Saturday, and during the spring and fall every Monday and Wednesday. Be sure to tune in next week. I'll be going over the interesting addition to the Structure Deck series, the Merrick Structure Deck. But in any case, this is Controlled Chaos, signing out.